Hello everyone, my name is Aayushi Chauhan, and today we will be talking about Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So, first about Jane Austen. Jane Austen was an English novelist known primarily for her six novels, which implicitly interpret, critique, and comment upon the British landed gentry at the end of 18th century. Born December 16, 1775, Stevenson, Hampshire, England, and died July 18, 1817, Winchester, Hampshire. She published four novels during her lifetime: Sense and Sensibility, 1811; Pride and Prejudice, 1813; Mansfield Park, 1814; and Emma, 1815. Persuasion and Northanger Abbey were published together posthumously, 1817. She vividly depicted English middle class life during the early 19th century. Her novels defined the era's novel of manners, but they also became timeless classics that remained critical and popular successes for over centuries after her death. These works reflect her enduring legacy. Coming to the novel, Pride and Prejudice was first published on January 28, 1813. Austen initially titled the novel First Impressions. However, she later changed it to Pride and Prejudice before its publications. Austen likely wrote the first draft between 1796 and 1797. She revised it later before it was published. The novel's opening line is one of the famous in English literature. The line is, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." Pride and Prejudice has been adapted numerous times into films, TV series, stage plays, and even modern retellings. Notable adaptations include 1995 BBC miniseries starring Colin Firth and Jennifer Ahle, and the 2005 film starring Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden. It had a lasting impact on literature and pop culture, influencing everything from romantic comedies to the portrayal of strong, independent female characters. Upon its release, Pride and Prejudice received positive reviews as well as well, and was well received by readers. It has since become one of the most popular novels in English literature, continuously praised for its enduring charm and relevance. Pride and Prejudice is considered a classic of English literature and is studied in schools and universities worldwide. Its exploration of universal themes, complex characters, and witty dialogues makes it a timeless work that continues to resonate with readers of all ages. Now, coming on the summary of the novel is set in rural England in early 19th century. It centers on Bennet family, particularly the five Bennet sisters, Jane, Elizabeth, Mary, Kitty, and Lydia. The family is of modest means, and because the Bennet estate is entitled to a male heir, Mrs. Bennet is eager to see her daughters married to secure their futures. The story begins when the wealthy and amiable Mr. Charles Bingley moves into Netherfields Park, a nearby estate. His arrival causes a stir in the local community, especially as he brings along his sisters and his friend Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy, a wealthy and seemingly aloof gentleman. At a local ball, Mr. Bingley is immediately taken with Jane Bennet, the eldest Bennet sister.
They quickly develop a mutual affection. However, Mr. Darcy appears proud and distant, offending Elizabeth Bennet, the novel's protagonist, when he refuses to dance with her, saying she is tolerable but not handsome enough to tempt him. Elizabeth forms a strong prejudice against Mr. Darcy due to his initial snub and apparent arrogance. Meanwhile, Mr. Darcy struggles with his growing attraction to Elizabeth. Despite her lowest social standing, Mr. George Wickham, a charming militia officer, arrives in Merton and wins Elizabeth's favor with his story of being wronged by Mr. Darcy. Elizabeth Darcy Elizabeth's dislike for Darcy deepens as she believes Wickham's account of Darcy's cruelty. When Elizabeth visits her friend Charlotte and Mr. Collins at Rosings Park, she encounters Mr. Darcy again. He surprises her by proposing marriage, but his proposal is marked by condescending tone, highlighting the inferiority of her family. Elizabeth rejects him, citing his role in separating Jane and Mr. Bingley as his mistreatment of Wickham. The next day, Darcy gives Elizabeth a letter explaining his actions. He reveals that Wickham is a scoundrel who tried to elope with Darcy's young sister, Georgiana, to gain her fortune. Darcy also admits to advising Bingley against pursuing Jane, believing her indifference to him and concerned about her family's behavior. Elizabeth begins to reassess her judgment of Darcy. Elizabeth's younger sister, Lydia, elopes with Wickham, causing a scandal that threatens to ruin the Bennet family's reputation. Darcy secretly intervenes, finding the couple and persuading Wickham to marry Lydia by paying off his debts. This act demonstrates Darcy's true character and deep affection for Elizabeth. Mr. Bingley returns to Netherfield and proposes to Jane, who accepts. Meanwhile, Miss Darcy proposes to Elizabeth again, this time with humility and respect. Having come to recognize his true worth and overcome her own prejudice, Elizabeth accepts. The novel concludes with both couples, Jane and Bingley, Elizabeth and Darcy, happily married. Pride and Prejudice ends on a note of mutual respect and understanding, with the characters having grown from the initial flaws of Pride and Prejudice. The marriages represent both personal growth and the triumph of true love over societal pressures and misunderstandings. Now, coming to the major themes of the novel, number one, pride. Theme of pride is central to the novel, as suggested by the title. Various characters exhibit pride in different forms. Mr. Darcy's initial aloofness and haughty demeanor stems from his pride in his social status and wealth. Elizabeth Bennet, on the other hand, takes pride in her judgment and discernment, which initially leads to misjudge Darcy. Both characters must overcome their pride to understand each other better and find happiness together. Number two, prejudice. Along pride, prejudice is a significant theme. Elizabeth's prejudice against Darcy is fueled by his initial behavior and Wickham's misleading stories. Her quick judgment prevents her from seeing Darcy's true character. Conversely, Darcy's prejudice is evident in his dismissal of he perceives as a social inferior, including Elizabeth and her family. The novel demonstrates the dangers of preconceived notions and importance of looking beyond first impressions. Number three, love and marriage. Love and marriage are central to the narrative, with various perspectives on these concepts presented through different characters and relationships. The novel critiques marriages based on economic necessities of social convenience, as seen in the relationship of Charlotte Lucas and Mr. Collins. and Lydia and Bacon. In contrast, love between Elizabeth and Darcy and Jane and Bingley is based on mutual respect, understanding, and genuine affection, illustrating Austen's ideals of balanced and happy marriage. Number 4. Social class and hierarchy. The rigid class structure of early 19th century England is prominent theme in the novel. Characters are acutely aware of their social status and expectations that come with it. Darcy's initial hesitation to pursue Elizabeth despite his growing affection is due to the disparity in their social ranks. Similarly, Lady Catherine de Bourgh's opposition to their union highlights the societal importance placed on maintaining social boundaries. This novel criticizes the social prejudice and promotes the idea that character and virtues should take precedence over wealth and status. Now, coming to the characters of the novel, firstly, the protagonist, Elizabeth Bennet. Elizabeth Bennet, the protagonist of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, is spirited, intelligent, and independent young woman who stands out for her wit and strong sense of morality. Unlike many of her contemporaries, Elizabeth values genuine affection and mutual respect in marriage, rejecting the idea of marrying solely for financial securities or social status. Initially, her quick judgment leads to misjudge Mr. Darcy, showcasing her own prejudice. However, her capacity for self reflection and growth allows her to recognize her error and overcome her biases. This transformation, along with her ability to stand up herself and her beliefs, makes Elizabeth a relatable and enduring character, embodying the novel's themes of pride, prejudice, and personal growth. Next, Fitzwilliam Darcy. Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy, one of the central characters in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, initially appearing as a wealthy, aloof, and proud gentleman, making him seem cold and unapproachable. His reserved nature and high social status lead to a general misjudgment of his character, especially by Elizabeth Bennet. However, as the story unfolds, it becomes evident that Darcy is also honorable, responsible, and deeply caring. His pride stems from his sense of duty and upbringing, but his love for Elizabeth reveals his capacity of humility and change. By the novel's end, Darcy's transformation from a man ruled by pride to one who values love and mutual respect illustrates his depth and the importance of self awareness and personal growth. Now, coming to the side characters of the novel, number 1, Jane Bennet. Elizabeth's elder sister, Jane, is kind, gentle, and universally liked. Her romance with Mr. Bingley is subplot that mirrors Elizabeth and Darcy's, but without the same obstacles, highlighting the virtue of quiet goodness. Next, Mr. Bingley. A wealthy and amiable gentleman, Bingley is Darcy's close friend. He falls in love with Jane Bennet but is temporarily swayed by Darcy's concern about her family, showcasing his easygoing but somewhat impersonable nature. Next, Mr. Collins, a pompous clergyman and the Bennet family's heir. Mr. Collins is obsessed with social status and deferences to his patronage, Lady Catherine de Bourgh. His proposal to Elizabeth, followed by his marriage to Charlotte Lucas, highlights the theme of marriage for convenience. Next, Charlotte Lucas, Elizabeth's pragmatic and sensible friend. Charlotte marries Mr. Collins out of necessity, representing the limited option available to women of the time and contrasting with Elizabeth's view on marriage. Next, Lydia Bennet. The youngest Bennet sister, Lydia is reckless, flirtatious, and naive. Her elopement with Mr. Wickham nearly ruins her family's reputation, emphasizing the dangers of unchecked behavior and societal expectations. Next, Mr. Wickham. A charming but deceitful officer, Wickham initially wins Elizabeth's favor by falsely portraying Darcy as the villain. His true nature as a fortune hunter is revealed later, serving as a foil to Darcy's character. Next, Mrs. Bennet. Elizabeth's mother, Mrs. Bennet, is obsessed with marrying off her daughters, often to their embarrassment. Her lack of propriety and understanding of true values provides comic relief and underscores the pressures women face to secure advantageous marriages. Next, Mr. Bennet, the sarcastic and somewhat detached father of Bennet family. Mr. Bennet provides a counterpoint to his wife's hysteria, though his lack of involvement in his daughter's upbringing is criticized. Next, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, a wealthy, domineering noblewoman and Darcy's aunt. Lady Catherine embodies the arrogance of the upper class. Her attempt to prevent Darcy from marrying Elizabeth highlights the novel's critique of Pride and Prejudice. Coming on the literary techniques, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen employs a variety of literary techniques that contribute to its enduring appeal and depth. Here are some of the key techniques used in the novel. Number one, irony. Irony is one of the most prominent techniques in Pride and Prejudice. Austen uses irony to highlight the absurdities of social norms, relationships, and character flaws. For example, the famous opening line, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in a possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife," is ironic because it reflects society's assumption that wealthy men are eager to marry while also poking fun at the desperation of families seeking advantageous marriages for their daughters. Elizabeth, with witty observation and contrast between characters' words and actions, further demonstrate Austen's use of irony. Second, free indirect discourse. Austen frequently employs free indirect discourse, a narrative technique that blends third person narrative with the thoughts and feelings of characters. This allows readers to access the internal perspectives of characters like Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy without using first person narration or direct dialogue. It helps to create a sense of intimacy with the characters and provided insights into their motivations, misconception, and growth. Third, satire. Pride and Prejudice is a satirical novel that critiques the social norms, gender roles, and marriage practices of early 19th century England. Characters like Mr. Collins, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, Mr. Bennet, Mrs. Bennet are exaggerated to comic effect, exposing the ridiculousness of social status obsession, the marriage market, and lack of genuine understanding in relationships. Through satire, Austen criticizes the superficial values of society while highlighting the importance of intelligence, integrity, and emotional depth. Fourth, characterization. Austen is known for her keen ability to create vivid, memorable characters. Through dialogues, actions, and interactions with others, she built complex personalities. Elizabeth Bennet's sharp tongue, Mr. Darcy's initial aloofness, and Mr. Collins' obsequiousness are conveyed through their speech and behavior, making them distinct and relatable. Austen's characters often undergo significant development, particularly Elizabeth and Darcy, whose personal growth drives the narrative. Fifth, dialogue. Dialogue in Pride and Prejudice is crucial for character development and advancing the plot. Austen characters often reveal their personalities, social status, and intentions through conversations. The witty exchanges between Elizabeth and Darcy, for example, are not only entertaining but also illustrate the evolving relationship and mutual respect. Dialogue is used to contrast characters' values and highlight the social dynamics of the time. Sixth, social commentary. Austen uses novel to comment on social issues of her day, including class, marriage, and gender roles. Through the experiences and observation of her characters, she critiqued the rigid class hierarchy, the limited opportunities for women, and societal pressure to marry for security rather than love. The commentary is woven through the narrative, making novel a reflection of its time while also challenging its norms. Seventh, foreshadowing. Austen uses foreshadowing to hint future events and character revelations. For example, Mr. Darcy's early interaction with Elizabeth and his cryptic comments about Wickham foreshadows the deeper truth about both men that are later revealed. The gradual unveiling of characters' true natures keep readers engaged and contributes to the novel's suspense. Eighth, symbolism. While Pride and Prejudice is not heavily symbolic, certain elements serve symbolic purposes. For instances, Pemberley, Mr. Darcy's estate, symbolizes Darcy himself, initially perceived as imposing and distant, but later revealed to be beautiful and well ordered, reflecting Darcy's true character. Elizabeth's walks and love for nature symbolizes her free spirit and independence. Ninth, point of view. The novel is primarily written in the third person limited point of view, focusing on Elizabeth Bennet. This allows readers to see the world through Elizabeth's eyes, sharing her thoughts and emotions while also maintaining a broader perspective on the social world around her. The limited point of view emphasizes Elizabeth's misunderstanding and prejudice, aligning the reader's discovery of truth with hers. Tenth, humor. Humor is a key element in Austen's narrative style. Her use of wit, irony, and comedic characters add lightness to the story and engages readers. Characters like Mr. Collins and Mrs. Bennet provide comic relief, while Elizabeth's sharp observation adds a layer of humor that underscores the novel's critique of societal norms. So,